There's a test that comes before every breakthrough. A test you can't skip, fake, or escape. And most people fail it because it doesn't feel like a test. It feels like nothing. Like silence. Like being forgotten. You keep making dua, but the only thing that responds is time. And time isn't answering. You're still in the same room, same job, same struggle, watching others get married, get noticed, get ahead, and you're wondering, what did I do wrong? But what if you didn't do anything wrong? What if this isn't punishment at all? What if it's the beginning of something sacred, something most people never recognize until it's over? Because before Allah gives you destiny, He gives you a season of stillness, not to crush you, but to build you in silence. You think you're behind, but you're actually in training. And no one announces training. There's no applause, no congratulations, no aha moment. Just long days where you wonder if your life matters to anyone at all. And that question, that quiet, painful wondering, that is the test. The ones who pass it don't look special. They don't even feel strong, but they keep showing up. Not because they see results, but because they trust Allah sees them. And when that trust stays firm in the silence, that's when the shift begins. Because you don't grow when life rewards you. You grow when nothing makes sense, and you obey anyway. Before destiny comes clarity, and before clarity comes the clearing. You'll start to notice things falling away. People who once made you feel whole disappear. Plans you prayed would work collapse. Even parts of you, beliefs, habits, routines, start shedding on their own. At first, it looks like loss, but in reality, it's subtraction with a purpose. Because when Allah is about to elevate someone, He first removes everything they leaned on that wasn't Him. You didn't lose that friend. You lost the noise. You didn't lose that opportunity. You lost the illusion that it was the only way, and it hurts. It always hurts. Because the ego doesn't go quietly. It clings, it begs. It reminds you of how good things used to be. But don't confuse emptiness with abandonment. That empty space, that's where tawakkul gets planted. That silence, that's where your real voice starts to echo. Allah knows you can't carry divine purpose with a hand full of distractions. So He empties you before He fills you. And the ones who endure this part, they don't look like warriors. They look like people grieving things that never should have defined them in the first place. This is where most people quietly fail. Because once the noise is gone, and the people are gone, and the comfort is gone, the only thing left is your character. And that's when the real test begins. Not the test of ability, but the test of identity. Who are you when no one's watching? When no one's clapping? When no one is even around to know you're trying? Are you still kind when you get nothing back? Are you still praying when nothing feels different? Are you still honest when a lie would make life easier? This is what Allah wants to see, because public success without private character is a curse in disguise. There's a verse in Surah Al-Hajj that whispers this truth. Indeed, Allah defends those who believe. He doesn't say those who succeed or those who are famous. He defends those who believe, even when their belief is buried under fear, loneliness, or exhaustion. So if you're still obeying, still showing up, still holding back from the things no one would even know you did, that's not small, that's not invisible. That's proof, and that proof is worth more than 1 million followers, a viral quote, or a loud reputation. Because if Allah is your witness, who else needs to see? Time is the hardest test. You've passed the character test. You're still here, still holding on, still choosing faith over comfort, still choosing truth over ease. But now comes the test that breaks even the strongest. Time. Because it's one thing to endure pain for a night. But what about a month, a year, 5 years? What do you do when the pain doesn't stop and the blessing doesn't come? Most people don't fail because they sin. They fail because they ran out of patience before the miracle arrived. That's what makes this part dangerous. It's invisible. It's not dramatic. It's not obvious. It's the slow erosion of hope. The Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam sat in a prison cell, not for a day, but for years. Not because he sinned, but because his story wasn't ready yet. That's how destiny works. It's not rushed. Because when Allah is writing your future, He's also writing your strength to carry it. So the question becomes, will you still believe in what's written for you? When you've been waiting so long, you can't even tell if it's still coming. That's the waiting trial, and it doesn't ask how loud your faith is. It asks how long your faith lasts. This is the part where most hearts grow quiet. Not from peace, but from exhaustion. You've done everything right. You let go of what was taken. You showed up when no one cared. You waited through the silence, and still, nothing. No sign, no change, no obvious reward. And now the whisper begins. What's the point of trying when nothing is happening? This is the test of trust, because it's one thing to believe when you see a blessing on the horizon. It's another thing entirely to believe when there's no sign of anything at all. Do you still wake up for Fajr? Not because you feel spiritual, but because you know Allah deserves it. Do you still walk away from sin? Not because people are watching, but because your soul still fears being distanced from your Lord. Do you still give, still serve, still forgive, when it looks like you're the only one losing anything? Trust is tested when obedience feels unrewarded. When you stop praying with the hope of change and start praying simply because Allah is worthy of it, no matter what changes. There's a hadith that says, "Wondrous is the affair of the believer, for there is good for him in every matter," and that is not the case with anyone except the believer. That good? Sometimes it's hidden in the act itself, not in the outcome. But we don't like that. We want to feel something. We want reassurance. We want signs. And sometimes we just want a break. Why does it feel like everyone else sins and still succeeds? Why do I keep holding back and still get held back? Am I just wasting my youth, my dreams, my energy on something that may never happen? If you've ever asked those questions, you're not broken. You're human. But trust means showing up even when you feel like your story has been paused. Because what you don't see is that Allah might be protecting your future from something you would have begged for, but regretted forever. So yes, keep showing up, keep walking, even with empty hands, even with a tired heart, even when you're unsure whether this path will ever pay off. Because the path that looks empty to you may already be full of angels writing down every step you've taken. And then one day, something shifts, not loud, not dramatic, but enough to make your heart whisper, "That felt different." The same prayer you made for months. Suddenly there's a response. The same doors that stayed shut, one of them quietly opens, and you realize the silence wasn't absence, it was strategy. Because while you were breaking in private, Allah was building in silence. Not just the path, but you. You weren't waiting for the blessing. The blessing was waiting for you to become the kind of person who could carry it. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam once said, "Know that victory comes with patience, relief with affliction, and ease with hardship." It wasn't just a promise. It was a pattern written into your life. And if you look back now, maybe you'll see it. That one moment you didn't give up became the reason something unseen began to shift. That one sin you resisted became the turning point in a story you didn't know was already being written. That one quiet night you cried and no one saw you was the moment your name was lifted to the heavens. So if it ever felt like no one was watching, it's because the one who mattered most never stopped. And Allah doesn't forget. Not a tear, not a sacrifice, not a quiet act of obedience done with a trembling heart. Because your breakthrough doesn't start when the world sees you. It starts when Allah saw you, and you stayed firm anyway. This is the part where most people collapse, not because they were weak, but because they got tired of waiting. They wanted a sign, a shortcut, a way to skip the silence and fast forward to the miracle, but purpose doesn't come with express delivery. It comes after purification. How many people gave up right before they were about to be answered? How many walked away the night before Allah planned to open the door? It's not always shaitan that destroys your future. Sometimes it's impatience. Sometimes it's that voice that says, "I've waited long enough. This can't be the way. Maybe if I take the easier path, I'll still get there." But every shortcut comes with a silent cost. Every detour leads you away from the one thing you were being shaped for. Remember the story of the companions of the cave in Surah Al-Kahf. They waited, trusted, and stayed hidden. Not for a day, not for a year, but for centuries. Their names are still remembered. Their patience turned into a legacy. That's what rushing robs you of. Not just blessings, but the weight of your name in the unseen. So don't rush. Don't panic when others seem ahead. Because their path isn't your path, and their pace isn't your pace. Allah isn't late. Allah is protecting you from what would have looked like a blessing, but broken you the moment you touched it. Stay in your lane. Stay in your prayer. Because one more step in patience might be the one that changes everything. So here you are, still standing, still breathing, still carrying a heart full of questions and faith. You've walked through silence. You've endured the loss, the waiting, the invisibility. You've obeyed when there was no applause. And you trusted when there were no signs. And maybe you didn't realize it. But that was the breakthrough. Not when life changed, but when you didn't. When you stayed sincere. When you still whispered, "Ya Allah," even when nothing made sense. That silence you hated, it was sacred. It was where Allah shaped you. And the test, maybe you already passed it. Not by being perfect, but by staying, by not walking away, by holding on when everything around you said, "Let go." Allah says in Surah Az-Zumar, "Is Allah not sufficient for His servant?" That's not a verse. That's a question, a personal one. Because sometimes your destiny isn't delayed. It's just waiting for you to realize Allah was always enough. And if any part of this journey felt personal, it's because these tests are real. They live inside all of us. Drop this in the comments to make it yours. Ya Allah, let me pass the tests I don't even recognize yet. And if you made it this far, maybe others need to as well. So like the video, share it, and let someone else realize that their silence might be sacred too. May Allah give you patience without bitterness, strength without arrogance, and a future that begins with sincerity. Ameen.